Now I caught up with Eddie Hooker from My Deposits, and he's chatting to us about the importance of settling a deposit and ensuring it's fully protected throughout your tenancy.
I know by law, if you pay a deposit to your landlord or letting agency into a government authorised tenancy deposit protection scheme, they have to protect it in one of these schemes. So what exactly does this entail?
Okay, this is a really important piece of legislation which was introduced in 2007 and it all for the benefit of the tenant. So when the tenant pays a deposit to the landlord or letting agency, one of three things must happen. Firstly, the deposit must be protected in an authorised scheme.
Okay.
Secondly, information surrounding that deposit and the tenancy have to be provided to the tenant. So that will have things like the amount of the deposit, which scheme it's protected with, the name and phone number of the landlord, etc. And thirdly, at the end of the tenancy, if there's a problem in the return of the deposit, then the schemes step in and can deal with any disputes which may happen.
Right, okay, so you need to ask for that piece of paper.
Absolutely.
The tenant
there's about 3.5 million deposits protected in the UK at the moment, and there's quite a lot of awareness around tenancy deposit protection. But some of the research we've done has shown that a lot of tenants don't ask for that information. It's called the prescribed information. So when something goes wrong at the end of the tenancy, they don't know where their deposit's protected, or they don't know who to ring or what to do. So that information is absolutely crucial for the tenant.
Right.
They must ask their landlord or letting agency
when they
for it.
give the deposit,
That's
I guess.
correct, yeah.
So once you come to an end of your tenancy agreement, how long will it usually take for a tenant to get their deposit back?
Well, the law says that you have to wait as a tenant for 10 days after the end of the tenancy. But in that time, you should be in communication with your landlord or letting agent. So ask for the deposit, understand whether there's going to be any deductions. And it's only after 10 days that can you contact one of the schemes for them to intervene. So generally speaking, most tenants will get their money back within a few days. But the important thing is, remember to ask for your deposit back.
Okay, so that's when you guys, My Deposits, will come in to help tenants. Great. So what about student renters? Is it the same for them?
Well, students are tenants as much as anyone else are. There's certain things which are excluded. So halls of residence, they're not part of the legislation. Lodgers, for example, are not part of it either. But the important thing for students to remember is most students will share. So there'll be one of a number of students all sharing a particular house. And most tenancy agreements for sharers are joint and several. So remember, when you're moving in with your flatmates, you are responsible for the rent, you're responsible for the deposit, you're responsible for repairs and maintenance.
Right.
Even if one of those sharers walks out or refuses to actually pay, you're on the hook.
So make sure you live with people you trust.
You read the tenancy agreement, and everybody understands the commitment that they're entering into.
Okay. So what about withholding rent? So if a tenant, say, something's happened in the property and the landlord is refusing to do repairs, should a tenant ever withhold their rent?
Look, the advice we give is that you should never withhold any rent. And in fact, tenancy deposit schemes in the main won't deal with a dispute where the tenant has withheld rent, for however fair that situation is. Our advice is, look, if you understand what your obligations are with regards to the tenancy agreement, and the landlord and letting agent understands the obligation, then there should be no reason to withhold rent. And I would always say, talk to your landlord. If there's a problem, say that the property has no heating there, or there's mould building, talk to the landlord, talk to the letting agent. If they don't get anywhere with them, then speak to people like the Citizens Advice Bureau, but keep that rent going, because immediately you stop that rent, you're in breach of that tenancy agreement, and therefore the landlord has a right to throw you out.
Thank you very much, Eddie.
You're welcome, thank you.